Hello, now that is a Ford Ranger, and that is also a Ford Ranger, sort of. If you haven't heard, the Volkswagen Amarok is mechanically a clone of the Ford Ranger. They're built in the same factory outside Pretoria here in South Africa. However, there are some significant differences which we thought we'd point out in this video. Cars.co.za.
Faf de Klerk knows that no matter what you've done for your country, and the ladies, you can still get caught with your pants down. Don't faff around, just claim via WhatsApp and get paid out quick fast. Budget, the official insurer of good South Africans.
The first generation Amarok arrived over 10 years ago and really proved itself to be the real deal. However, pivoting towards electric vehicles, Volkswagen did not want to give up on the Amarok and so approached Ford for some help. And now motorists around the world have these twins to choose from. So we had to ask, which one should you buy? Right, the Amarok. So these days you can choose to have a Ford Ranger with a Ford badge on it, or you can have a Ford Ranger with a Volkswagen badge on it. Now that's maybe being a bit simplistic and maybe even a little bit mean, but at the end of the day, these are Ford Rangers. Ford Ranger engine, Ford Ranger gearbox, Ford Ranger chassis. However, in saying that, I do feel like Volkswagen have gone to great lengths to differentiate their product, at least aesthetically, from the Ranger. So the outside, completely different. And then they could have been lazy and just borrowed the Ford Ranger dash. I mean, let's be honest, right? That was an option. They could have just literally said, all right, Ford, stick the Ranger dash in the Amarok and stick a Volkswagen badge on the steering wheel. However, they haven't done that. You've got a completely redesigned interior in here, and it looks and feels fancier than the interior in the Ford. You've got leather up on top of the dashboard with this nice contrast stitching. You've got a couple of different tones to the dash, completely different design, especially around the cubbyhole area. Yes, they have obviously taken the touchscreen from the Ford, but it has its own software and its own look and feel. And interestingly, the Amarok has ditched the climate control buttons, and you now have one climate button down here, and then you have to go and use the touchscreen, which is possibly one of my least favorite ways to change the climate control. I think buttons are the better way to go. But sitting here, you do forget that you're in a clone of the Ranger. You're in a Volkswagen. And then there is just the feel of this thing, and it literally just feels like another class of vehicle. The ride comfort, the way it deals with road imperfections, the way it cruises over gravel, it is so impressive. But yes, you are paying a premium for all of this. This bakkie is about 100,000 Rand more than the Ford Ranger that we have today. This is the style, the 2-liter bi-turbo style with a 10-speed box. I do feel like what you're getting here is pretty damn close to an SUV experience with, you know, the bakkie bit hanging off the back. Sure, it's never going to be as good as a unibody SUV, but damn, it is impressively close. For a body-on-frame chassis to feel this good, I'm so impressed. I think one of the reasons why this bakkie just feels more premium, more expensive, higher quality than just about everything else is down to the noise, vibration, harshness, the NVH levels. There's just less road noise, there's less wind noise, there's less engine noise, there's less vibration coming into the cabin, and you just feel like the Ford and VW engineers have gone to great lengths to improve on the NVH levels over just about every one of their rivals and over the previous generations of these bakkies. So under the bonnet, the same 2-liter bi-turbo engine that you get in the Ford, 154 kilowatts, 500 Newton meters. Very impressive engine. Funnily enough though, in here, we're averaging about a litre more than we are in the Ranger, 10.5 to the 100, so it just goes to show you what driving styles can do. Although, I wonder if aerodynamics plays a little bit of a role. Maybe the Amarok's not as aerodynamically efficient as the Ranger. but slightly more fuel being used here on our testing, although it's towards the lower end of what we're getting from the bunch of bakkies. But in case you missed it, go check out our drag race with all these cars and you'll see that the Amarok performed really, really well amongst the 7 bakkies.
In our epic 6 bakkie drag race from 2023, the surprise of the race was the Mitsubishi Triton. What a rocket! But at the 400-meter mark, the Amarok and Ranger, with exactly the same engines, were extremely close, and the difference was almost certainly down to the driver.
Now, when Ford debuted their 10-speed box, I first drove it in the Mustang and I really was not impressed. But they've tuned it and tuned it and tuned it, and now I think it is a particularly good box. It just always seems to know what gear it needs to be in. It doesn't really hunt for the right gear. And when you go for a kickdown, it seems to know exactly which gear to drop down to so that you get the best performance out of the engine. And the shifts are really, really smooth. I mean, really smooth. For me, the mark of a good gearbox is when you don't really know when it's doing its thing. And that is exactly what I'm experiencing here.
Right, out of the Amarok and into the Ranger. Let's compare interiors and compare how they both feel out on the tarmac.
You join me in the new Ranger. This is the XLT bi-turbo 10-speed box. And, well, what do you get for your money? Well, the 2-liter bi-turbo under the engine is largely carried over from the previous generation. Slightly detuned, weirdly enough, just, well, 3 kilowatts shy of what it was. So 154 kilowatts in here, 500 newtons, and this, for me, is a fantastic engine. It's a great mix of power, torque, and fuel economy. I've been averaging 9.4 liters to the 100 over my test period, and I've just really been enjoying this new Ranger. It feels like a next generation product. You know, something Ford does better than any other bakkie manufacturer, in my opinion, is the ride quality of their bakkies. You just get what's quite close to an SUV experience. Somehow they managed to minimize the effect of having a body on frame chassis, you know, ladder frame with a double cab on top. So yes, it's not going to give you that perfect unibody ride that you'll get from BMW X5, for instance. But as far as bakkies go, I don't really think it gets much better than this. The interior has, of course, come a long way. You now get this portrait screen. It's slightly smaller in here than the one you get in the Raptor and the Wildtrak. But to be honest, it's tough to notice. Maybe if you looked at them side by side, you'd see that the screen was smaller. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. I've got a digital screen in front of me as well. The graphics have all been improved massively as far as I can tell. The resolution is really good. For me, this is a great interior. Looks good, feels good, high quality materials, well put together, good sound system. No complaints when it comes to that sort of thing. Now the XLT, however, is missing a couple of comfort options which I would hope you'd get at this price point. So for instance, no heated seats, which are delightful in winter. And the seats are manual as well. But look at it this way. This car is almost 100,000 Rand cheaper than the equivalent Amarok. Yes, the Amarok has a couple more spec items like heated seats and like electric seats, but there's not a huge difference between them. And you're getting the exact same car underneath the skin. I must say, I think I prefer the Amarok's interior. I think they've done a great job with the design, but for me, a highlight here is that Ford have retained the climate functions as actual buttons, whereas in the Amarok, you have to dig in the infotainment for the climate control. And that, to me, just gets annoying. Right now, for me, this is the pick of the bunch. I think if I had to choose a bakkie, and let me put this out there, bakkies are not my favorite kind of car. I don't need one, so to me they just feel too big and a bit impractical to live with. But obviously South Africans do absolutely love these things, and I think that The Ford Ranger has moved the goalposts quite a bit. And although this platform is largely carried over, highly modified but largely carried over from the previous generation was really good. And to me, because the cab has been so radically redesigned and the interior has been so radically redesigned, it feels like a completely new generation car.
The reality is that out on the road, if you were blindfolded, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference in ride quality, which is by far the best in the segment for both vehicles. The Amarok wins on interior classiness, but Volkswagen has chosen to add a price premium to their offering, around 100,000 Rand, which makes the Ranger seem to be excellent value. There is nothing wrong with the Amarok at all. Both cars are without a doubt leading the segment, but for what is essentially an identical car, the Ranger is the better buy.
Cars.co.za.
Not only is Cars.co.za the best place to find your dream car, but it's also the easiest place to sell your current car. Check out the sell car section on our main website. Simply list your car's details and all of our dealers will take bids on your car. You just choose the highest price. Boom, your car's gone. On to your next one. Right, thanks very much for watching the video. Okay, I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm finished now.
A lifetime guarantee on all repairs is a lifetime of sidestepping, tackling and modeling your speedos happily. Budget, the official insurer of good South Africans.